They laughed at him. A dragon, shaking, too weak to even breathe fire. Alien soldiers threw stones at him, calling him useless. But far away, an old human was watching, and he didn't laugh. He said something no one expected. "Give me that dragon, and I'll give you a weapon that will end your empire." The aliens laughed even harder. They shouldn't have. The planet was not kind. It was ruled by aliens who believed only in power and control. High above the ground, massive ships floated in the sky, watching everything below. On the surface, cages stretched for miles, filled with creatures that once ruled their own worlds. Among them were dragons, strong dragons, fierce dragons, dragons that once made entire civilizations tremble. But here, they were nothing more than tools, weapons to be trained, used, and broken. Every day, alien soldiers walked between the cages, checking their assets, as they liked to call them. They carried shock weapons and heavy chains, and they showed no mercy. Most dragons had learned to obey. Some had given up completely, and some still held fire in their hearts. But one dragon was different. He was small, much smaller than the others. His body was thin, his wings weak and torn. His scales were dull instead of shining. His eyes did not burn with rage like the others. They showed fear, pure fear. He stayed in the corner of his cage, trying to stay unnoticed. But that never worked. The soldiers always found him. They laughed every time they saw him. They threw small stones at him just to watch him react. They called him useless, defective, a waste of space. Sometimes they would open the cage just to drag him out and push him around for their own amusement. The other dragons watched in silence. None of them helped. None of them cared. To them, he was already gone. In a place like this, weakness was a crime. And he was the weakest of all. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into something longer that he could no longer count. Hunger became normal. Pain became familiar. Fear became constant. And hope slowly disappeared. Then came the day of the public display. It was a special event. Alien commanders gathered from different regions. Massive platforms were set up. Crowds of soldiers stood in lines watching. The best dragons were brought out first. They roared with power. They breathed fire into the sky. They showed speed, strength, and destruction. The aliens cheered. They admired power and nothing else. Then it was his turn. Chains were attached to his neck and wings. He was dragged out into the open. The bright lights hurt his eyes. The noise around him was overwhelming. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching him, waiting, judging. He tried to stand straight. He tried to look strong. But his legs trembled. The commander in charge stepped forward, tall, armored, cold. He looked down at the small dragon with clear disappointment. He gave a simple order. "Fly." The dragon tried. He spread his weak wings and pushed himself up. For a moment his body lifted slightly. But then he crashed back down hard. Dust rose around him. Laughter followed immediately. The soldiers laughed loudly. Some pointed at him. Others shook their heads. The commander did not laugh. He simply looked bored. He gave another order. "Fire." The dragon opened his mouth. He tried to breathe fire like the others. His chest tightened. His body shook. A tiny spark appeared. Then nothing. Silence for a second. Then louder laughter than before. The sound hit him harder than any weapon. He lowered his head. He could not look at anyone. The commander turned away as if he had seen enough. He spoke calmly, but his words carried weight. "Remove it." The soldiers understood immediately. Remove did not mean relocation. It meant the end. Chains tightened around the dragon. He did not resist. He was too tired, too broken. As they began to drag him away, something unexpected happened. A voice spoke from the crowd. Calm, old, human. Wait. The soldiers stopped. The commander turned slowly. Humans were rare here. Most were workers or survivors. None of them spoke like that. An old man stepped forward. His clothes were simple. His body looked weak. But his eyes were steady, very steady. He walked closer without fear. The soldiers watched him with confusion. The commander narrowed his eyes. The old man looked at the small dragon, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with something the dragon had never seen before. Understanding. The man then looked at the commander. "Give him to me." For a moment there was silence. Then the soldiers started laughing again, even louder than before. The idea was ridiculous. This weak, broken dragon, given to a weak old human. It sounded like a joke. The commander stared at the man for a long moment. Then a slight smile appeared. Not kind, not friendly, just amused. "You want this one?" he asked. The old man nodded slowly. "Yes." The commander looked at the dragon again, then back at the human. "Fine, take it." The soldiers removed the chains and pushed the dragon forward roughly. The dragon stumbled. Confused, he did not understand what was happening. Why was he not being taken away? Why was he still alive? The old man stepped closer and gently placed a hand near the dragon's head. He did not force contact. He waited. The dragon flinched at first, expecting pain, but none came. Only calm, only quiet. For the first time in his life, no one was hurting him. Around them, the aliens still laughed. They thought this was entertainment, a useless trade, a pointless act. But the old man did not care. He slowly turned and began to walk away. The dragon hesitated for a moment, then followed, step by step, still unsure, still afraid. But something inside him changed, just a little, a very small feeling, something he had almost forgotten: hope. The journey away from the alien base was long and quiet. No chains, no shouting, no pain, only the sound of wind and slow footsteps. The young dragon walked behind the old human, unsure of what would happen next. Every movement he made was careful, as if expecting punishment at any moment. But the punishment never came. Hours passed, and the massive structures of the alien base slowly disappeared behind them. In front of them stretched a wide, empty land. Rocky hills, broken ground, and silence. Far away, hidden between cliffs, stood a small shelter made of metal and stone. It was simple but strong. The old human stopped there and looked back at the dragon. This is home now. His voice was calm, steady, and soft. The dragon did not understand the words fully, but he understood the tone. There was no anger in it, no control, only peace. The human stepped inside and returned with something in his hands. Food, real food, not scraps, not leftovers. Fresh and warm. The dragon froze. He had never seen food like this given freely. He did not move at first. The human placed on the ground and stepped back, giving space, waiting. Slowly the dragon moved forward, every step filled with doubt. He lowered his head and took a small bite, then another and another. Hunger took over. For the first time in a long time he ate, without fear being hit or interrupted. The human watched quietly. No orders, no commands, just watching. That night the dragon slept outside the shelter, curled up but alert, expecting danger. But the night passed in silence. No soldiers, no chains, no screams, only wind and distant stars. Days passed like this. Food, rest, silence. The dragon's body slowly began to recover. His movements became less shaky, his eyes less fearful. But the fear was still there deep inside. The human knew this, and he did not rush anything. Then one morning everything changed. The human walked out and stood in the open space. He looked at the dragon and made a simple motion. Come. The dragon hesitated. Training had always meant pain before, but something in the human's calm face made him step forward. Slowly, carefully, the human pointed at the sky. Fly. The dragon froze. The same word. The same command that once brought laughter and humiliation. His body tensed. His wings slightly opened, but then stopped. Fear held him in place. The human did not shout, did not repeat the command loudly. He simply walked closer and spoke gently. You are safe here. The dragon looked at him, confused. Safe was not something he understood. The human stepped back again, giving him space. Try. No pressure. No anger. Just a simple word. The dragon took a deep breath. He spread his wings. They still looked weak, but stronger than before. He pushed himself up. For a moment his body lifted, higher than last time. But then he lost balance and fell back down. Dust rose around him. He flinched, waiting for laughter, waiting for pain, but none came. The human nodded slightly. Good. The dragon looked up surprised. Good. That word felt strange. He had never heard it before directed at him. Training continued. Again and again. The dragon tried to fly, tried to control his wings, tried to hold his balance. Most attempts ended in failure. Falls, stumbles, heavy breathing. Frustration started to grow. Days turned into weeks of effort, slow, painful effort. The dragon began to feel something new. Anger, not at others, but at himself. Why was he still failing? Why was he still weak? One day, after another failed attempt, he let out a loud, frustrated cry. He hit the ground with his tail. Dust scattered everywhere. He turned away as if ready to give up. The human walked closer slowly. No fear, no rush. He stood beside the dragon and spoke quietly. You are not weak. The dragon did not react at first. The words felt impossible. The human continued. You were never trained the right way. The dragon slowly turned his head. Listening, the human looked directly into his eyes. They tried to force power out of you. But power does not work like that. The dragon stayed still. Something inside him was listening deeply. Power comes from control, from understanding yourself, not from fear. The human placed a hand gently near the dragon's neck, still not forcing contact, just presence. We will learn it together. That moment changed everything. Training became different. It was no longer about forcing actions. It was about feeling, understanding movement, breathing slowly, focusing. The human showed him how to control his body step by step. Small steps, very small, but important. One day the dragon opened his mouth again, trying to breathe fire. Instead of forcing it, he focused on his breathing. Slow, deep, controlled. A tiny flame appeared. Small, weak, but real. The dragon's eyes widened. He held it for a second, then it disappeared. He looked at the human. The human smiled slightly. That was it. That was the beginning. From that moment, progress slowly increased. The dragon managed short jumps that turned into brief flights. Just a few seconds in the air, but longer than before. His wings became stronger. His landings more controlled. Each success built something inside him. Confidence. Something he had never known. There were still failures. Many failures. But now they did not break him. Because each failure was followed by guidance, not punishment. The bond between them grew stronger every day. The dragon no longer saw the human as a stranger. He saw him as something more. A guide, a protector, maybe even family. And deep inside, for the first time, he started to believe. He was not broken. He was just beginning. Time moved forward slowly on the quiet land far from the alien empire. Seasons changed without notice. Winds grew colder then warmer again. And in that silence, something inside the young dragon began to transform. His body was no longer thin and broken. His wings grew wider, stronger, sharper. His movements became faster, more controlled. And his eyes, which once held only fear, now carried focus. Every day began the same way. Early morning training in the open ground. The old human standing quietly waiting. The dragon stretching his wings, preparing his body. No chains, no orders of pain, only discipline. At first the training was simple. Balance, breathing, control. But now it became harder. Faster movements, long-distance flight attempts. Fire control under pressure. The human never shouted, never insulted, but he never allowed laziness either. If the dragon succeeded, he nodded. If he failed, he made him try again. And again, and again. The dragon learned something important. Strength was not something given. It was built, painfully, step by step. One morning the human pointed toward the rocky canyon nearby. Run! The dragon moved instantly. His claws hit the ground with force. He sprinted forward faster than before. Wind rushed past his body. He felt alive. The human followed at a distance, watching carefully. The dragon leapt between rocks without stopping. Jump after jump. Higher, faster, stronger. Then suddenly the human gave a sharp hand signal. Change. The dragon reacted without thinking. He twisted mid-air, shifting direction. His wings caught the wind, and he soared for several seconds, longer than ever before. When he landed, dust exploded around him. He felt it. Real speed, real control. The human gave a small approving nod. Good. That single word still meant everything. But the real change came later, during fire training. The dragon stood in the open field, breathing slowly, focusing like he had been taught. The human stood behind him, calm but ready. The dragon closed his eyes. He remembered everything. Fear, mockery, pain, then silence, then training. He opened his mouth. At first, nothing happened. Then heat built inside his chest, stronger than before. The air around him shimmered. The human stepped slightly back. And then it happened. A massive fire blast erupted from the dragon's mouth. Not a spark, not a small flame, but a roaring stream of pure energy. It cut through the air and struck a distant rock formation. The explosion shook the ground. Dust rose into the sky. The dragon stopped, shocked at his own power. His breathing was heavy. His heart was racing. He looked at the destruction he had caused. It was real. He had done that. The human stood still watching. But far away in the sky, something else was watching too. A small alien scout ship hidden behind clouds. It had seen everything. The sudden burst of energy, the fire output, the controlled movement. The report was sent immediately. Across the alien empire, systems lit up. Data analyzed. Images reviewed. The weak dragon was not weak anymore. At first, the commanders did not believe it. They dismissed it as error. But more reports came. Stronger readings. Clear sightings. The dragon was growing, evolving, changing. Concern replaced curiosity. Curiosity turned into fear. Orders were given to monitor closely, not to destroy. Not yet. Something valuable was forming. Something dangerous. Back on the ground, the dragon was unaware of all this. He only saw the human, the one who stayed with him, the one who never left. After the fire burst, the dragon lowered his head slowly. He felt something new inside. Pride, but also confusion. Is this who I am now? The human walked closer and placed a hand on the ground beside him. No words at first, just presence. Then softly, you are ready for more. The dragon looked at him, and for the first time, he did not see just a trainer. He saw something deeper. Family. The human was not just the one who saved him. He was the one who rebuilt him. That thought stayed in his mind. Training became even more intense after that day, not because of pressure, but because of purpose. The dragon wanted to grow, not to prove anything to the aliens, but to protect the only being who never saw him as weak. The human pushed him harder now. Long-distance endurance flights across valleys. Fire burst controlled to avoid destruction of surroundings. Close combat movement drills against simulated threats. Every session tested his limits, and every time he broke through them. Slowly the dragon stopped thinking about survival. He started thinking about protection. If the Empire comes again, I will not run. That thought became stronger every day. One evening, after training, the sun was setting behind the mountains. The sky turned orange and gold. The dragon stood beside the human quietly. For a long time, neither spoke. Then the dragon lowered his head slightly. A gesture he had never made before. Not fear, respect, and something more. The human noticed but said nothing. He only looked at the horizon. But inside both of them, something was clear now. The bond was no longer teacher and student. It had become something unbreakable. And far above in the dark sky, the alien empire continued watching, unaware that what they once called weak was now becoming something they could no longer control. The sky above the quiet land had been calm for many days. No ships, no alarms, no shadows of the empire. But deep in space, the alien empire was no longer calm. Reports had turned into fear. Fear had turned into decision. And now the decision had become action. A full capture order was issued, not for a weapon, not for a creature, but for something they no longer understood. A dragon that had changed beyond control. A fleet was sent. Massive ships filled with soldiers, weapons, and scanning systems. They moved through space like a dark storm heading toward a single point, the place where the dragon and the human lived. Back on the ground, the morning started like always. Quiet wind, soft light over the rocks. The human standing near the open field. The dragon stretching his wings slowly. Stronger now, larger now. But something felt different in the air. The dragon stopped moving for a moment. He lifted his head. His eyes narrowed slightly. The human noticed immediately. "You feel it," he said calmly. The dragon did not answer with words, but his silence was enough. Far above them in the sky, a shadow appeared. Then another, then many. The clouds broke apart as massive alien ships entered the atmosphere. The air itself changed. Heavier, colder, like the world was holding its breath. The dragon stepped forward. One step, then another, not away from the threat, but toward it. For the first time, he did not turn back. No fear in his eyes, only focus. The human stood beside him, watching the ships descend. Soldier dropships separated from the main fleet. Landing zones formed around the valley. Metal boots hit the ground. Weapons charged. Alien soldiers moved in perfect formation surrounding the area. The Empire had come back. And this time, they did not come to watch. They came to take. A loud voice echoed through the valley. "Surrender the dragon. Return it to Imperial control." The dragon listened, but did not move. The human placed a hand on his shoulder. Slow and steady. "This is the moment," he said quietly. The dragon turned slightly. Looking at him, the human continued. "Power is not about fear. It is about choosing when to use it." The dragon held those words in silence, then slowly nodded. The human stepped back, giving space. The soldiers tightened their formation, weapons aimed, energy shields activated. A countdown began, but before it could end, the dragon moved, not backward, forward. The ground cracked under his first step. A shockwave of force spread through the field. The soldiers reacted instantly. Energy blasts fired. The sky lit up with streaks of light. Explosions followed one after another. The dragon lifted his wings and launched into the air. Fast, faster than before. He twisted mid-air, avoiding incoming fire, then released a burst of flame. Not wild, not uncontrolled. Perfectly shaped. The fire cut through the air and destroyed a landing ship in seconds. Metal melted. Systems collapsed. The soldiers froze for a moment. They had expected resistance. But not this. More ships opened fire from above. The dragon flew directly toward them. His movements were sharp and precise. Every wing beat controlled. Every turn calculated. He no longer fought like a frightened creature. He fought like something that understood its own strength. He dove through incoming fire, spun around a barrage of energy blasts, and countered a massive stream of fire that split the sky. One ship after another began to fall, burning, breaking, exploding in the air. On the ground, soldiers tried to regroup. They surrounded the human, but before they could act, the dragon landed between them. The impact alone threw several soldiers back. Dust rose in a wide circle. When it cleared, he stood there, wings spread, eyes glowing, completely calm. The soldiers hesitated. For the first time, they were afraid. The dragon moved again, this time on the ground, fast like a shadow. He knocked weapons away without killing unnecessarily, disarmed entire groups in seconds. Fire bursts appeared only when needed, controlled, precise. Every action showed mastery, not rage. Above them, the remaining ships attempted a final strike. A massive energy cannon charged. The dragon looked up, and instead of retreating, he rose into the air again. Higher, stronger. He gathered energy in his chest. The human watched from below, silent, proud. The dragon released everything in one single control blast. A beam of fire so powerful it met the alien cannon in midair. For a moment the sky turned white, then red, then silent. The alien weapon collapsed, and the ship behind it began to fall. burning as it descended. On the ground, silence spread. The soldiers stopped moving. Command signals broke. The Empire force that came for capture was now scattered and broken. The dragon landed slowly, breathing steady. No rage in his face. Only control. Only understanding. The battle was not about destruction. It was about choice. And he had chosen to stand his ground. The battlefield slowly became silent. The explosion stopped. The smoke began to rise into the sky like heavy dark clouds. Broken metal ships lay across the land, burning softly. The ground was cracked and glowing in places from intense heat. Alien soldiers stood frozen, not moving, their weapons lowered without command. No one spoke. No one cheered. The Empire force that had arrived with confidence now stood in complete shock. A few moments ago, they had believed this would be an easy capture mission. Now they were watching something they had never seen before. The dragon stood in the center of it all, breathing slowly, steady, controlled. His wings stretched wide behind him, no longer small, no longer weak. He looked larger than anything on the battlefield. His body carried power that was no longer hidden. It was fully awakened, and it was no longer chaotic. It was perfect control. The wind moved around him as if it respected his presence. The remaining alien soldiers began to step back slowly, not because they were ordered, but because they felt something deep inside them. Fear, real fear, from something they could not calculate or control. Above them, the last damaged ships tried to retreat, but even their systems were failing. The Empire was losing its grip on the battlefield. In the center, the dragon lifted his head, and for a moment everything paused. Even the wind felt still. Then he spread his wings fully. The motion was slow but powerful. Every scale caught the light of the burning sky. Every muscle showed strength built through struggle, through training, through patience, through pain that was never wasted. This was not the same creature they had mocked, not the same weak dragon from before. This was something new, something beyond their understanding. In one of the command ships, the alien commander watched the scene through broken sensors. His hands were shaking slightly. For the first time in his career, he could not speak immediately. The data on the screen showed impossible readings. Energy output beyond known dragon limits. Movement speed beyond standard classification. Fire control precision that matched military strategy. His mind finally accepted the truth. This was not a weapon. This was not an experiment gone wrong. This was a force of nature shaped by something else. And that something else was human. On the ground, the dragon turned his head slightly. He looked at the remaining soldiers. They were ready to run, waiting for permission to retreat, waiting for survival. But the dragon did not attack. He did not chase. He did not destroy what was already broken. Instead, he closed his wings slowly. The fire around him faded into calm heat. His breathing became steady again. He was in control, completely in control. That moment changed everything. The soldiers realized they were not being spared out of weakness. They were being spared out of choice, a choice they could not understand. The dragon stepped forward once. An entire line of soldiers moved back again. Not attacked, just moved back. The Empire force began to retreat without orders. Ships that were still functional lifted into the sky. Damaged units followed. The battlefield that once held a full invasion force was now emptying in silence. No victory celebration. No pride. Only retreat. High above in orbit, the alien fleet commander gave the final order. Withdraw. No one questioned it. The Empire had seen enough. The ships turned and slowly left the atmosphere, leaving the broken battlefield behind. Below on the ground, the dragon stood still, watching them leave. No anger in his eyes. No desire for revenge. Only understanding. He had the power to end them, but he did not need to, because true strength was no longer about destruction. It was about control. Behind him, footsteps approached. The old human walked forward slowly, dust and light around him as calm as ever. He stopped beside the dragon, looking at the sky where the ships had disappeared. The dragon lowered his head slightly, not in submission, but in respect. The human placed a hand gently on his side. No words were needed at first. The silence between them was enough. Then the human spoke softly. "You did it." The dragon exhaled slowly. A deep, steady breath. For the first time, there was peace in it. No fear, no confusion. Just calm. They stood there together, watching the empty sky. The battlefield behind them slowly quieting. Burning metal cooling down. Wind returning to the valley. The human and the dragon remained side by side. Not master and weapon. Not trainer and student. But something deeper. Something built through trust. Through struggle. Through time. The Empire had come to capture a weak dragon, but they had left behind something they could never control. Something they helped create without understanding it. And in the end, the truth became clear across the stars. They laughed at a weak dragon, but they created their own downfall when they underestimated a human.